Don't be ridiculous. Why would we waste money on your debutante ball when you can't even bother to look presentable? My mom's words stung, slicing through the room as I stood there frozen, hands shaking by my sides. My twin sister, Vanessa, was lounging on the couch, flipping through catalogs for her own ball, already planning her grand event. But it's my 16th birthday too, I protested quietly, my voice barely audible. We're twins. It's supposed to be for both of us. Isabella, my dad said, not even bothering to look up from his newspaper. You need to be realistic. These kinds of events are about making connections, about finding a good match. It's an investment, and paying for yours is just a waste of money. The tears I'd been holding back finally threatened to spill, but my mom didn't notice. She simply nodded in agreement. Vanessa is the beautiful one, sweetheart. You, well, you have other qualities. I'm sure you understand the difference by now. My name is Isabella Murder, and at 16, I understood my place in my family's eyes. Vanessa, my identical twin, was always the priority, beautiful, poised, and ready to marry well and move us up in the world. I was the afterthought. The plain one. The one with no market value, according to my parents. We weren't wealthy, but my parents were determined to pour every last cent into Vanessa's social debut, and I was left on the sidelines. I just wanted to feel important. I wanted to be treated as an equal, especially by my own parents. But their belief that beauty was the only worth a woman had meant that no amount of academic success or personal achievements would ever make a difference. My parents had chosen their favorite daughter long ago, and no matter what I did, it wouldn't change a thing. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom we shared with Vanessa. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, my mind spinning. Vanessa and I looked the same brown hair, same hazel eyes, same heart-shaped faces. But somewhere along the way, our parents had convinced everyone, even themselves, that Vanessa was the pretty one, and I was the smart one. As though those were the only options. When I finally came out, I overheard my parents talking in their bedroom, their voices low but sharp. We should start looking at college options for Isabella, my dad was saying. Something practical, affordable, my mom agreed. We need to save the rest for Vanessa's wedding fund. She might not even need college if the right connections are made at her debut. I leaned against the wall, a cold wave of shock running through me. It wasn't just about the ball. It wasn't just about the party I wasn't allowed to have. They had already decided my entire future. College? That was a secondary thought. As long as Vanessa's future was secure, nothing else mattered. The signs had always been there. Vanessa got new clothes, I got her old ones. She went to dance classes, while I was told I could go to the library for free. Her academic mediocrity was excused, while my success was expected. I worked harder, trying to make up for what I lacked in looks by excelling in school. If I couldn't be the beautiful one, I'd be the smartest. At 16, I had a plan, top of my class, scholarship to a prestigious university, law school afterward. While Vanessa was out shopping for prom dresses, I was researching internships. While she was learning makeup techniques, I was practicing debate strategies. My parents thought my academic focus was normal for someone like me. They didn't understand it was my only way out. Vanessa once told me, "You're lucky. You don't have to worry about your looks. Mom and Dad expect me to be perfect all the time, but you get to just be yourself." It was a strange compliment, but it showed how little she understood. She thought their favoritism was a burden, not a privilege. She didn't see that while they were focused on her beauty, they completely ignored the things that mattered to me, my character, my mind, my ambition. I didn't resent Vanessa, not truly. She was just as much a victim of our parents' expectations as I was. Occasionally, when they weren't around, we would share moments of honesty. She'd admit her insecurities, and I'd confess my jealousy of the attention she got. Those fleeting moments made me hope that, underneath it all, we could still have a real relationship. My Aunt Catherine was the only one who seemed to understand. One evening, when I was 15, after our mother made another cruel remark about my looks, Aunt Catherine pulled me aside. "Your parents are making a terrible mistake, Isabella," she whispered. They think they're setting you up for success, but beauty fades. What you need is intelligence, determination, empathy. Those are the things that last. Her words stuck with me, but as Vanessa's debutante ball loomed closer, even Aunt Catherine's wisdom seemed far away. Still, I clung to it, hoping that one day my parents would see the error in their ways. The night of Vanessa's ball arrived, and everything felt extravagant. The venue was a luxury ballroom. The guest list was full of Minneapolis's elite. Vanessa's dress alone cost more than I had saved for my entire college fund. "Isabella, come help your sister with her hair," my mom called, without looking at me as she fussed with Vanessa's makeup. I quietly took the curling iron, meeting Vanessa's gaze in the mirror. For a second, I thought I saw something resembling guilt in her eyes, but it was gone before I could even register it. "You'll come to the ball, right?" Vanessa asked, her voice almost too soft. Before I could answer, my mom interrupted. "Isabella will be helping the catering staff. We need someone to manage things, and it's good experience for her. Real-world skills." My hands froze. "What?" I thought I was attending as a guest. Mom's laugh was cold. "Don't be silly. One daughter's participation is enough for this event. Besides, there's a young man from the Henderson family who's Yale-bound. He'll be there. Perfect for your college connections." I felt my heart sink. Not only was I being denied my own debutante ball, but I was also being relegated to the role of servant at my sister's. I had accepted not having a grand celebration, even worn a simple department store dress instead of something custom, and had even written a speech to honor Vanessa. But this was beyond anything I could tolerate. "I'm not going to work as a server at my own sister's ball," I said, setting down the curling iron. "Don't make a scene," my father warned, stepping into the room. "The catering manager already knows you're helping. They've adjusted the staff accordingly. You never asked me if I wanted to do this. It's not like you had other plans," Mom snapped, "and it will look good on your resume." I turned to Vanessa, hoping for some support, but she was too busy admiring her nails, her silence cutting deeper than any words could. That was it, the final betrayal. I left without another word, heading to my room, where I sat on the edge of my bed, trembling with anger and sadness. Later that night, dressed in the black pants and white shirt they'd set out for me, I stood in the kitchen of the Grand Hotel, watching through the service door as Vanessa made her grand entrance. The crowd cheered, my parents beamed with pride, and cameras flashed. "Family of the debutante?" a catering staff member asked, noticing me standing in the doorway. "No," I replied coldly, "just the help." That night, as I served trays of champagne, my mind was made up. I would never again let my parents define my worth. The humiliation I felt would be the last straw. The following Monday, I walked into the school counselor's office with a plan. "I'd like to graduate early," I told Mrs. Winters, sliding my carefully researched proposal across her desk. "I've calculated the credits I need, and with summer courses, I can finish by December instead of May." Mrs. Winters raised an eyebrow. "This is quite ambitious, Isabella. Why do you want to graduate early?" "So I can start college and be self-sufficient as soon as possible," I replied, my heart still heavy from the ball. "I've already looked into scholarships and early admission programs. I just need your help to make it happen." To my surprise, Mrs. Winters supported me. Within weeks, I was enrolled in extra courses and weekend programs, pushing myself harder than ever before. My days were long, but every assignment completed brought me closer to my goal. Of course, my parents weren't thrilled. "This is unnecessary," my dad grumbled when I told them. "You're pushing yourself too hard. No one expects you to compete with your sister's social success." "I'm not competing with Vanessa," I replied calmly. "I'm securing my own future." "You're 16, Mom scoffed, "and we've already talked about your college options. A state school will be just fine for you." "I'm applying to top-tier universities," I said firmly, "and I'm going to get in." Their mockery only fueled my determination. I wouldn't let them hold me back any longer. Vanessa, however, seemed to buy into their expectations just as much as they did. When she found me researching application fees one night, she said, "They'll never let you do it. You know, they've already got everything planned for you." I didn't respond, but inside, I made a vow. I would prove them wrong. I wasn't worth the investment. At least, that's how they'd always treated me. But now, I had something, letters of acceptance from prestigious universities, proof that I was capable, that my parents had been wrong all along. The temptation to rush home and wave them in my parents' faces was strong. I wanted to show them what they had missed, to make them see my worth. But experience had taught me that reacting too quickly was a mistake. If I gave them a chance, they'd find a way to sabotage me again. I needed a plan. That evening, I went to Aunt Catherine's apartment. She didn't need any more explanation. The moment she saw the letters, she pulled me into a hug. "I knew you could do it," she said, her voice full of pride. "Have you told your parents yet?" she asked. I hesitated. "Not yet. I'm afraid they'll find a way to stop me." Aunt Catherine gave me a knowing look. "You're 18 now. They can't stop you legally. But they have everything, my birth certificate, my social security card, everything I need to register," I explained, feeling the weight of the situation. Aunt Catherine's face shifted, and she went to her bedroom. A moment later, she returned with a sealed envelope. "After the debutante ball incident," she explained, "I started preparing. Over the last 2 years, I've gotten duplicates of all your important documents." I was stunned. "How did you?" "I'm still your legal guardian," she said. "Your parents named me as backup when you girls were born, and they never changed it. I never told you, because I didn't want to give you false hope. But I've also been saving for you." She handed me a bank statement showing nearly $25,000 in my name. "It's not enough to cover full tuition, but with your scholarships, it's more than enough." I stared at her, overwhelmed. "Aunt Catherine, I don't know how to thank you." "Just excel," she said simply, her eyes soft. "That's all I need." As I left her apartment, holding the envelope and the bank statement, a sense of lightness washed over me. For the first time in years, my future was in my hands. But the universe wasn't done with its surprises. When I arrived home, I found Vanessa sitting alone in the dark living room, looking eerily calm. "Where have you been?" she asked. "At the library," I answered automatically. Vanessa held up 3 envelopes. "These are mine. My college acceptance letters. They arrived today." My heart sank. I knew what that meant. "Vanessa, please. Harvard, Yale, Columbia," she read, her voice barely holding together. "All with scholarships. Full ride at Harvard." I reached for the letters, but she pulled them away. "Did you know I applied to colleges, too? Nothing fancy, just state schools. I got in. But when I told Mom and Dad, they said it wasn't part of the plan. The money was better spent on my social connections than on unnecessary education." I stared at her, finally starting to understand. "You wanted to go to college?" "Of course I did," she snapped, tears in her eyes. "Do you think I enjoy being treated like some prize heir, being groomed to marry well, my worth tied to whether I can attract a rich husband?" The realization hit me like a punch. All these years, I had thought Vanessa was in on it, that she was part of the system that kept me down. But now, I saw that she, too, was trapped. Different expectations, but just as suffocating. "I didn't know," I said softly. "No," she replied, her voice breaking. "You didn't. Just like I didn't know you were applying to Ivy League schools. They've had us so focused on competing with each other that we never saw how they were controlling both of us." She handed me the acceptance letters. "Take these and go. One of us should escape." 2 months later, with graduation behind me and summer slipping into autumn, I was preparing to leave for Harvard. My parents had grudgingly accepted that it was happening, though they still didn't approve. "Liberal arts is a waste," my father said at dinner, looking disapprovingly at my plate. "You should have chosen something practical, like accounting." "I'm majoring in political science with a pre-law track," I repeated, as I had 100 times. "And I have a full scholarship. It's hardly a waste." "We'll see," my mother replied, forcing a smile. "When Vanessa is settled with a good husband, you might regret all this independence." Vanessa, who had been pushing food around her plate, suddenly looked up, her eyes sharp. "Can we not talk about my hypothetical husband for one meal? Isabella is about to leave for Harvard." My parents exchanged looks but stayed silent. Since that late-night conversation, Vanessa and I had formed a fragile alliance. She'd helped me pack in secret, storing my things at Aunt Catherine's place until I was ready to leave. In return, I'd been helping Vanessa find ways to pursue her education later, perhaps after turning 21, when she could control her own future. The night before my departure, my father knocked on my door. "We need to discuss finances," he said, sitting on my bed without waiting for an invitation. "My scholarship covers tuition, room, and board," I replied, not sure what he was getting at. "Yes, well," he began, his tone changing, "now that you're going to this fancy school, you'll meet important people. It'll be good for you to stay connected to the family." I braced myself. "What are you trying to say?" "We've invested a lot in you," he continued. "Your upbringing, your high school education. It's only fair that once you're successful, you help the family, especially your sister." I blinked, incredulous. "You want me to pay you back for raising me?" "Not immediately," he said, as though that made it better. "But when you're a lawyer, we expect you to help. Family helps family." The audacity took my breath away. After years of telling me I wasn't worth the investment, they were now trying to claim my future. "I'll think about it," I said flatly, unwilling to escalate things. He seemed satisfied with that and left. Once he was gone, I texted Vanessa, "Need to talk. Meet at Catherine's tomorrow." The next morning, as I loaded my things into Aunt Catherine's car, my parents stood on the porch, watching. There was a mixture of resentment and something that might have been pride if they allowed themselves to feel it. "Remember what we discussed," my father said as I prepared to leave. "I will," I said, the words intentionally vague. At Aunt Catherine's apartment, Vanessa was waiting. She smiled when she saw me, though her eyes were red-rimmed. "Ready for your grand escape?" she asked, helping me with my bags. "Almost," I said. "But first, I need to tell you something." I explained what my father had said, that they expected me to financially support the family once I became successful. "They're already planning how to use you to control me," I finished. Vanessa's face hardened. "They never stop, do they?" "No," I agreed. "But we can. I have a plan. You'll stay with Aunt Catherine while I go to Harvard. Once you're 21, we'll figure out how to get you into school, too." Vanessa hesitated, clearly unsure. "What if I can't make it? What if I'm not smart enough?" "You can," I assured her. "And you won't be alone. We'll be equals." As we talked, my phone buzzed with a message from my mother, "We're coming to Boston with you. We've booked a hotel for the week. We want to see where our investment is going." Vanessa and Aunt Catherine exchanged glances. "They'll try to turn your success into their social currency," Aunt Catherine warned. It was a setback, but it didn't change our plans. Our escape was still on. 10 years later, I had achieved everything I set out to. I graduated from Harvard, went to Columbia for law school, and landed a position at one of Minneapolis's top law firms. At 36, I was the youngest partner in the firm's history. Vanessa's path had been different. She had stayed behind, swayed by our parents' manipulation. She never got to go to school. Instead, she had gone from one controlling relationship to the next. Now, she was living with our parents, a single mother of 2. I hadn't seen much of her over the years, except for brief check-ins about the children. But I knew things weren't going well for her. Then one Tuesday afternoon, my assistant told me I had unexpected visitors. "Mr. and Mrs. Murder are here to see you," she said. "They don't have an appointment, but they insist it's urgent." I straightened my suit and nodded. "Send them in." They entered my office, my mother, looking fragile, and my father, supported by a cane. "Isabella," my mother said with forced warmth. "You look successful." "I am," I replied. "What brings you here?" My father cleared his throat. "We need your help. Medical bills, the mortgage, we're facing bankruptcy. Vanessa can't work with the kids, and we thought, given your position." I listened, coldly, as they tried to manipulate me into giving them money. They hadn't changed. "I don't think so," I said finally. "You know, it's just a matter of investment. You've made it clear that family is about investment, not unconditional support." By your own metric, you're a poor investment now. The color drained from their faces. We were trying to be realistic about your prospects, my father protested weakly. And I'm being realistic about yours, I replied. You've had years to support me, to nurture my success. But instead, you worked to undermine me. And now you expect to benefit from my achievements. I reached for the folder on my desk and opened it. I'm not giving you money directly. But I've set up trust funds for James and Evelyn, and I've arranged for Vanessa to receive vocational training if she wants it. The look on their faces was one of shock and humiliation as I handed them the papers. I've given them opportunities, real opportunities, I said. Something you never gave either of us. I watched them leave my office, stunned and defeated, knowing I had finally broken free from their control. Later, I called Vanessa. They came to see you, didn't they? She asked immediately. Yes, I confirmed. But I didn't give them what they wanted. I've made sure you and the kids will be taken care of. There was a long pause, and then she whispered, "Thank you for not forgetting about us." Never, I replied. We were both their daughters, even if they couldn't see our equal worth. As we talked, I knew that the real investment had been the one I'd made in myself, not just in my education or career, but in my integrity and compassion. That was the return that no balance sheet could ever measure.